Hi, everybody. It's Jay, and I am back in the booth with you for another sneak peek video preview for this week's new release here on Say with Jay. Now, as I've mentioned before, our new release schedule here on Say with Jay matches up with Jessie's book release schedule. And Jessie doesn't have a new release this week. In fact, she is on a very well-deserved vacation in Alaska. Now, what that means, if you've been enjoying our episodes that we've been doing, well, this week is your lucky week because our new release this week is episode 6, the exciting conclusion of Second Chance with You. That's right, that's the 4th book in Jessie's Baxter Boys Sweet Romance series. And I'll have a bit more about episode 6 with a preview for you of the first few minutes in just a bit. But this week, here in the United States anyway, this weekend is the first weekend of autumn. And with that in mind, I thought I might share with you guys a few little video clips of some of the residents of my backyard getting ready for the colder weather. Haven't shared these with you in a while, but this morning, which is when I took these clips, I got to see several of my little friends, including Speedy and Corndog and Rabbit. And yes, I can actually tell them all apart. That's a long story. I won't get into that now. But it also kind of put me in a mood, and I thought it would be kind of neat to share something from a fellow Alabamian, Helen Keller, who wrote a poem when she was just 13 entitled Autumn. And I wanted to read an excerpt for you. All right, so here goes. Oh, what a glory doth the world put on these peerless, perfect autumn days. There is a beautiful spirit of gladness everywhere. The wooded waysides are luminous with brightly painted leaves. The forest trees with royal grace have donned their gorgeous autumn tapestries. And even the rocks and fences are broidered with ferns, sumacs, and brilliantly tinted ivies. But so exquisitely blended are the lights and shades, the golds, scarlets, and purples, that no sense is wearied, for God himself hath painted the landscape. The hillsides gleam with golden corn, apple and peach trees bend beneath their burdens of golden fruit. The goldenrods, too, are here, whole armies of them, with waving plumes resplendent with gold. And about the wild grapes, purple and fair and full of sunshine, the little birds southward going linger like travelers at an inn and sip the perfumed wine. And far away the mountains against the blue sky stand, calm and mysterious, like prophets of God wrapped in purple mist. I just wanted to share that. Hope that gets you guys in the mood for autumn as much as it does me, and that you're able to enjoy this wonderful season wherever you are. All right. Let's talk a little bit about episode 6. Now, for anybody who has not listened to the previous episodes, this is almost inherently going to involve at least some mild spoilers. So, if you don't want any spoilers at all and you haven't listened to the previous episodes, you may want to skip to the end. And if you do, thank you so much for listening. All right? So everybody that's still here wants to be here, right? Okay. And don't worry, this is actually fairly spoiler-free. At this point in the story, Riley Coleman and Ben Baxter, have started to turn around the Brickley Springs terminal of the Coleman Trucking Company. The shop, very much so. Riley's been having a bit more trouble on the business side, because she's been struggling to find information that her predecessor should have left her. On top of that, they have two large outstanding issues. While they've been growing closer and closer, they still haven't addressed the misconception that Ben's family has, that they've been married for years, and Riley hasn't mentioned her growing feelings for Ben to her dad at all. Certainly not the fact that they're married. So here are a few minutes from the start of episode 6. I hope you enjoy it, and then you'll come back this Friday for the full episode here on Say with Jay. The weeks went by. Graham slowly mended. The twins went back to Maine to pick up where they'd left off, and Ben and Riley settled into a routine. Watching the sunrise together in the morning, going their separate ways at work, Riley approving every change Ben made and trying to unwind her own issues in the office. Slowly, the terminal was turning. They cooked supper together in the evening and often sat outside by the fire ring that Ben had made the week she was gone to meet with her dad at their Virginia facility. Easy friendship lay soft like a spring rain between them, but the attraction that had always marked their relationship was not dormant. Not for her. But she didn't talk about it, didn't acknowledge it, and neither did he. Since the night when he'd told her he couldn't imagine her with any man but him, he'd pulled way back. It was like they'd never been close. She should have been relieved, since that was the night that she realized she was in love with Ben. Completely, head over heels in love with Ben. It had scared her. He would never actually want to be with a girl like her. Someone like Dusty was much more his style. Thankfully, he'd seemed to realize it when she pointed it out and gotten quiet before she said something stupid like she'd wanted to many times over the past few weeks. Something like, "How about we be married for real?" She just needed to keep it together for another 6 weeks. By unspoken agreement, they'd not spent much time together when they were at work. Her dad hadn't asked for another tour, and they'd accomplished what she had barely even hoped to accomplish. His family believed they were happily married, and her dad didn't even know they were on speaking terms. Her mom was a non-issue, although she'd broken up with husband number 5 and now had a penthouse in New York City with her new boyfriend. Riley clicked a few more keys on her office computer. This one sticky issue of figuring out the information filing system had taken up a majority of her time since she'd started, and she almost had it all figured out. The one huge hang-up had been 8 missing IFTA reports. She would need them when the insurance renewed in 3 months, and she still hadn't found them, even though she'd been through every folder on the system a half-dozen times. Standing, she stretched her back and neck. She walked over to the window where she could see the big garage doors open. It was the wrong angle to see Ben's bay, but it was a comfort to know that he was down there. Their time was almost up, and she didn't want to think about losing him. Her eyes dropped. She hadn't spent much time loafing in her office, but she walked over now to the small love seat against the far wall. If she moved it against the other wall, she could move her desk so it faced out the window. It was kind of untraditional to have her desk not facing the door, but it couldn't hurt to try it, right? She gave the love seat an experimental push. It moved easily. It would be easy. Her eyes landed on a folder on the floor, just peeking out from where the love seat had been. Drawing her brows together, she squatted down. Pulling on it, she realized there were a pile of folders. She picked up the top one. IFTA, it said across the top in big letters. Her heart started racing, and she couldn't contain her smile. She reached for the other folders, checking under the love seat to be sure she got them all. Profit and loss by department, records of employee performance, all dated in the past year. She laughed and clutched them to her chest. The last supervisor had not been a big computer person. That had been obvious. Apparently, they'd been more comfortable with hard copies. But there were no filing cabinets, so, under the love seat, they'd gone. She strode over to her desk and sat down, flipping through them to be sure. Yes, all the reports she'd been missing. All the information she needed to make profitable changes. Everything. All here. So excited she couldn't sit still, she jumped back up and strode to the window. Ben leaned in the opening of one of the big garage doors, a sandwich in one hand, staring in her direction. Another fellow stood beside him, holding a bottle of soda, and a third seemed to be telling a story since his hands were gesturing everywhere, despite the fact that he was holding a bag of potato chips. They must be taking a late lunch. Riley calculated quickly. Her dad had spent the last week in Maine. That terminal had been struggling since Ben and she had left. He was driving back tomorrow. She grabbed her phone and texted Ben. "Great news! Can you meet me in the back parking lot?" She held her phone in her hand and watched as he pulled his out of his pocket, read it, and texted back. He put the last bite of his sandwich in his mouth and pushed off from the garage door. Her phone buzzed. "Be there in 5. Hi, this is Jay, and thanks for listening. If you're ready for another great audiobook, here's one we think you might like. Or check out the playlist with all our latest releases. Don't forget to subscribe to Say with Jay, give this video a thumbs up, and tell us what you liked in the comments.